Commander Vex Ka stood on the bridge of his ship, staring at the reports from his crew. 5 of his best warriors had been defeated by a single human girl. His weapons were unreliable, his engines were running poorly, and his crew was terrified. To be alone anywhere on the ship. The other aliens whispered that the human girl was like a ghost. She appeared without warning, struck like lightning, and vanished before anyone could stop her. Some of the crew wanted to kill all the human prisoners just to make the attack stop, but Vex Ka was smarter than that. The prisoners were worth millions. At the slave markets, he would not destroy his profit because of one troublesome female. Instead, he decided to use the other humans as bait to draw her out. "Attention, human ghost," he announced over the ship's communication system. "I know you can hear me. If you do not surrender in 1 hour, I will start killing your fellow humans. 1 every 10 minutes until you give yourself up." Maya heard the announcement from her hiding place in the air ducts above the bridge. She looked down through a grate and saw the alien commander surrounded by his remaining guards. They all looked nervous and kept checking the shadows for any sign of her. The threat to kill the other prisoners changed everything. Maya had been content to hunt the aliens one by one, making them pay for their crimes with fear and pain. But now innocent people would die if she did not act quickly. She had been saving the best for last. Commander Vex Ka was the leader of this ship and the one responsible for capturing her people. He deserved special treatment. But Maya's plans would have to change. She could not let the other prisoners die while she played games with their captor. Maya crawled through the air ducts toward the bridge. The passages were smaller here, designed only for emergency access. She had to squeeze through spaces barely, wide enough for her body. A larger person could never have made this journey. She reached the access panel directly above the commander's chair and listened carefully. There were 6 aliens on the bridge, including Vex Ka. They were all armed and alert. This would be her most dangerous fight yet. Maya had collected 5 teeth so far, but she carried much more than trophies. She had weapons taken from the defeated guards, tools improvised from ship components, and knowledge of the ship's systems. Most importantly, she had the anger of a Deathworld girl who had watched her home destroyed and her people enslaved. She opened the access panel slowly and peered down at the bridge. Commander Vex Ka was sitting in his chair, checking the time. In 50 minutes, he would start murdering prisoners. Maya would not let that happen. The bridge lights suddenly went out. Maya had spent hours preparing for this moment, rerouting power and disabling backup systems. The aliens cried out in surprise and confusion as emergency lighting flickered on, casting strange shadows throughout the room. "What is happening?" Vex Ka demanded. "Fix the lights." "The power grid is failing, Commander," one of his technicians reported. "Someone has sabotaged the main controls! Find her!" Vex Ka screamed. "The human must be—" His words were cut off as Maya dropped from the ceiling like a falling star. She landed directly on top of him, driving him from his chair to the floor. Her improvised weapons scattered across the bridge as they hit the ground together. The other aliens tried to help their commander, but Maya was ready for them. She had studied their movements for days and knew how they would react. As the first guard rushed toward her, she rolled away from Vex Ka and swept the alien's legs. He crashed into a control console in a shower of sparks. The second guard had his weapon ready, but Maya threw one of her improvised tools at the emergency lights. The bridge plunged into darkness, broken only by the glow of computer screens. In the confusion, Maya moved like a shadow, striking at the aliens from unexpected angles. She had grown up in the dark tunnels of her home world. Darkness was her friend, not her enemy. The aliens stumbled around blindly while Maya danced between them, hitting pressure points and nerve clusters with surgical precision. One by one, the guards fell unconscious. Maya's training in emergency medicine had taught her exactly where to strike to disable an opponent without killing them. She wanted them alive to remember this defeat. When the lights came back on, Commander Vex Ka found himself alone on the bridge with Maya. His guards were scattered on the floor, unconscious and bleeding. The human girl stood before his chair, covered in alien blood and holding a necklace made from teeth. "Impossible," Vexka whispered. "You are just one small human. How did you defeat my entire crew?" "I am not just any human," Maya replied calmly. "I am a Deathworld human. I was raised by a planet that tried to kill me every day. Your ship is like a vacation resort compared to my home." Vexka reached for his weapon, but Maya was faster. She grabbed his wrist and twisted with strength that seemed impossible for her small frame. His gun clattered to the floor as bones cracked. "You made a mistake when you attacked my station," Maya continued, forcing the alien commander to his knees. "You thought humans were weak because you had only met the soft ones from the easy worlds. You never met someone like me." "What do you want?" Vexka gasped, clutching his broken wrist. "I want you to remember this lesson," Maya said. "I want you to tell every slaver in the galaxy what happens when they mess with humans. But first, I want my trophy." She grabbed Vex Ka's head and examined his teeth. They were larger than the others, yellowed with age and sharp from years of tearing meat. Maya selected the biggest one and gripped it firmly. "This is for every human you have ever hurt," she said as she pulled. Vex Ka's scream echoed through the ship. The tooth came free with a wet sound, leaving a bloody gap in his mouth. Maya held it up to the light and smiled with satisfaction. 20, she announced, adding it to her collection. "One for each member of your crew." She had been busy during the past few days. While the aliens thought she was hiding, Maya had been systematically hunting down every member of the crew. Some she had found sleeping, others she had lured into traps. A few had tried to fight, but none had succeeded. Every alien on the ship now had a gap in their teeth, and a story they would never forget. The great Zephyrian slavers had been defeated by a single human girl who weighed less than any of them. Maya walked to the ship's control console and began changing their course. She had learned to fly mining shuttles back home, and the principles were similar. The ship turned away from the slave markets and headed toward human space. "Where are you taking us?" Vexka demanded, still holding his bleeding mouth. "Home," Maya replied. "I am taking my people home, and I am delivering you to human authorities so they can learn about your slaving operations." "They will never believe you defeated us alone." Maya fingered her necklace of alien teeth and smiled. "I have evidence." 3 days later, the stolen slaver ship arrived at a human colony world. Maya broadcasted on all frequencies, identifying herself and requesting assistance. The colonial authorities were shocked to hear that a teenage girl had captured an entire alien crew. When the rescue ships arrived, they found Maya sitting calmly on the bridge, surrounded by unconscious aliens. The human prisoners in the cargo hold were weak but alive. Every alien on the ship was missing at least one tooth. The authorities questioned Maya for hours, but her story never changed. She told them about the attack on her mining station, her capture, and her decision to fight back. She showed them the necklace she had made from alien teeth as proof of her victories. The news of Maya's adventure spread quickly through human space. She became a symbol of human strength and determination. Children on dozens of worlds learned her story and dreamed of being brave like the Deathworld girl who fought an entire ship of slavers. The Zephyrian survivors were put on trial for slavery and piracy. They told wild stories about a human ghost who could appear anywhere and defeat anyone. Most people thought they were lying to make their capture seem less shameful, but other aliens heard the stories and believed them. Word spread through the galaxy's criminal underworld about the human girl who had torn out 20 teeth, one at a time. Slavers began to avoid human colonies, afraid of what they might encounter. Maya returned to her homeworld and helped rebuild the mining station. She never spoke much about her adventure, but sometimes visitors would notice the alien tooth necklace she wore. When they asked about it, she would smile and say it was a reminder that when you strike a Deathworld girl, she does not just strike back. She makes sure you never forget the lesson. The galaxy learned to respect humanity that day. They learned that humans were not prey to be hunted and sold. They were predators who could survive anywhere and fight anyone who threatened their people, and they learned it one tooth at a time. By the fourth day, panic was spreading through the alien ship like a disease. 3 guards had been found unconscious with missing teeth and no memory of how they got hurt. Equipment was failing in strange ways. The crew jumped at shadows and whispered about bad luck and curses. Commander Vex Ka called a meeting of his senior officers. The ship's engineer, Tovex, was complaining about power problems throughout the ship. The weapons officer, Grell Ni, reported that someone had been tampering with their weapon systems. Nothing was broken beyond repair, but everything was working poorly. "It must be the human girl," Vex Ka said. "Somehow she is moving around the ship and causing these problems." "Impossible," said Tovex. "Humans are weak and stupid. One small female could not outsmart our entire crew." "Then explain the missing guards," Vex Ka replied angrily. "Explain the sabotage. Explain how 3 trained warriors were defeated by nothing." The other officers had no answers. They had never encountered a human like Maya before. The slaves they usually captured were soft creatures from comfortable worlds. They did not know what a Deathworld human could do when pushed to fight. Maya listened to their conversation from inside the air duct above the meeting room. She had learned enough of their language to understand most of what they said. Their fear was music to her ears. These aliens had spent their lives bullying weaker species. Now they were learning what it felt like to be hunted. She decided it was time to expand her campaign of terror. The 3 guards had been easy targets, but the senior officers would be more challenging. They were smarter and more experienced fighters, but Maya had advantages they did not expect. Tovex returned to the engine room after the meeting. He was angry and worried about the problems with his equipment. Maya had been watching him for days and knew his routines. He was methodical and careful, checking every system twice before he was satisfied. Maya had prepared a special surprise for him. She had found the ship's life support controls and made some creative adjustments. The air in the engine room was slowly being replaced with gases from the ship's waste recycling system. To humans, it would smell terrible, but not be immediately dangerous. To aliens with more sensitive noses and lungs, it would be much worse. Tovex noticed the bad smell as soon as he entered the engine room. He checked his instruments and saw that the air quality was dropping rapidly. He tried to fix the problem, but Maya had hidden her sabotage well. The more he worked, the worse the air became. Soon Tovex was coughing and struggling to breathe. The toxic gases were making him dizzy and weak. He tried to call for help, but His communication device had mysteriously stopped working. Maya had disabled it hours earlier. When Tavex collapsed to his knees, gasping for clean air, Maya dropped down from her hiding place in the ceiling. She was wearing a breathing mask she had found in an emergency kit. The poisoned air did not affect her. "Having trouble breathing?" Maya asked pleasantly. "My home world had air that would kill you in minutes. This is just a little uncomfortable." Tavex tried to grab his weapon, but his hands were shaking too badly. Maya easily took it away from him and threw it across the room. The alien engineer stared at her with wide, frightened eyes. "You caused this," he wheezed. "How? You are just a human child." "I am a Deathworld child," Maya corrected him. "I learned to survive in places that would terrify you. Your ship is luxury compared to my home." She knelt beside the suffering alien and examined his teeth. They were different from the guard's teeth, flatter and designed for grinding rather than tearing. But they would make fine additions to her collection. "This is for calling humans weak and stupid," Maya said as she worked one of his molars loose. Tavex was too weak from the bad air to resist. He could only whimper as Maya claimed her prize. The tooth was larger than the others and felt heavy in her hand. "4," she announced, holding it up to the light. Maya left Tavex unconscious on the floor and restored the air quality to normal. He would live, but he would never forget this lesson. She had shown him that human intelligence was far more dangerous than alien strength. Her next target was Grell-Nee, the weapons officer. He was in the ship's armory trying to figure out what was wrong with their guns. Maya had spent the previous night carefully sabotaging their weapon systems. Nothing was completely broken, but everything was unreliable now. The armory was a difficult place to attack someone. It was well lit with few hiding places. But Maya had brought tools she had made from scraps of metal found throughout the ship. Growing up in a mining colony had taught her to make useful things from whatever materials were available. She waited until Grell-Nee was deep in concentration, working on a plasma rifle with his back to the door. Maya slipped into the room silently and picked up a heavy tool from the workbench. It was similar to the mining hammers she had used back home. "Having problems with your weapons?" Maya asked from behind him. Grell-Nee spun around and reached for his sidearm, but Maya was already moving, swinging her improvised hammer with deadly accuracy. The tool connected with his wrist and his weapon flew across the room. The alien cried out in pain as bones cracked. "Humans are supposed to be peaceful," Grell-Nee gasped, clutching his injured arm. "We are peaceful when people leave us alone," Maya replied. "When they attack us and try to sell us as slaves, we become very unfriendly." Grell-Nee tried to fight her with his good hand, but Maya had learned combat from a world where everything wanted to kill her. She used his own momentum against him, redirecting his attacks into the hard metal walls of the armory. Each impact weakened him further. Finally, Maya managed to get behind him and apply another chokehold. This time, she was more careful, cutting off blood to his brain without damaging his throat. Grell-Nee struggled for a few seconds, then went limp. "This is for thinking you could sell my people like animals," Maya said as she examined his unconscious form. Grell-Nee's teeth were sharp and numerous. Maya selected one of his prominent canines and began working it free. The weapons officer would wake up knowing that a human girl had defeated him in his own armory, surrounded by tools designed to kill. "5," Maya said, adding the tooth to her growing collection. She looked around the armory and smiled. So many weapons, all of them designed to hurt innocent people. Maya began her work of sabotage with enthusiasm. She loosened firing pins, adjusted power settings, and scrambled targeting systems. By the time she was done, every weapon in the room was unreliable at best. As Maya prepared to leave the armory, she heard footsteps in the corridor outside. More aliens were coming to investigate the problems with their equipment. She quickly climbed back into the air ducts and disappeared into the ship's hidden passages. The footsteps belonged to Commander Vex Ka and two of his guards. They found Grelny unconscious on the floor with blood on his face and tools scattered everywhere. The commander's angry roar echoed through the ship. "Find that human!" he screamed. "Search every room, every corridor, every storage compartment. She cannot hide forever." But Maya was not hiding. She was hunting. And with each tooth she collected, the aliens became more afraid. They had thought humans were easy prey, but now they were learning the truth. When you hurt a Deathworld girl, she does not just get mad. She gets even. Maya fingered the 5 teeth in her pocket as she crawled through the ship's maintenance tunnels. The aliens were starting to understand that they had made a terrible mistake, but it was too late to fix their error. The hunt would continue until every alien on the ship knew the price of underestimating humanity. Maya had promised herself that she would collect a tooth from each one of them. She was a woman of her word, and Deathworld humans always kept their promises, even the ones that involved pain. When Crixna woke up, he was screaming. The other aliens found him on the floor of the storage room with blood on his face and a gap where one of his teeth used to be. He kept saying that the small human girl had attacked him. The other guards laughed at his story. "One little human female," Zekro said with a grin. "You must have hit your head harder than we thought." "She was like a wild animal," Crixna insisted. "Her strength was not normal. She moved too fast." Commander Vex Ka was angry when he heard about the incident. He did not care about Crixna's pain, but he cared about his property. Damaged slaves sold for less money at the markets. He decided the human girl needed to be put in a proper detention cell where she could not cause more trouble. "Bring her to me," he ordered Zekro and Plix-An. "I want to see this dangerous little human for myself." The 2 guards went to the cargo hold expecting to find Maya cowering with the other prisoners. Instead, they found her restraints lying open on the floor and no sign of the girl. The other humans claimed they had not seen her leave. They looked scared and confused. Maya had spent the day exploring the ship through its maintenance tunnels. Her small size let her crawl through spaces that the tall aliens could never enter. She had mapped every corridor, every room, and every weakness in their security systems. The ship was old and poorly maintained. The aliens were confident in their strength and had become careless. They did not expect their prey to fight back, so they had not bothered to secure all the access points. Maya found dozens of ways to move around the ship without being seen. She learned that there were 20 aliens in the crew. Most of them were lazy and spent their time drinking, gambling, or sleeping. Only a few took their duties seriously. The ship's weapons were powerful but old. The engines made strange noises that meant they needed repair. Maya also found the ship's communication system. She could not send a message to human space because the aliens would detect it, but she could listen to their conversations and learn their plans. They were taking the prisoners to a slave market on a planet called Vex Prime. The journey would take another week. That gave her time to work. When Zekro and Plix-An realized Maya was missing, they started searching the ship. They looked in all the obvious places but never thought to check the maintenance areas. Maya watched, them from above, crawling through the air ducts like a spider in its web. "She must be hiding somewhere," Plix-An said nervously. "Humans are sneaky creatures." "She is just a scared little girl," Zekro replied. "When she gets hungry enough, she will come out." Maya smiled in the darkness above them. Let them think she was hiding. Soon they would learn the difference between hiding and hunting. She waited until the evening shift when fewer guards were awake. Zekro was supposed to be patrolling the lower decks, but Maya had watched him for days. She knew he would find a comfortable spot and take a nap instead of doing his job. She found him sleeping in a maintenance room, snoring loudly. His weapon was lying on a table next to him. Maya dropped down from the ceiling vent as quietly as a shadow. Her bare feet made no sound on the metal floor. Zekro never woke up. Maya's fingers found the pressure point at the base of his skull. It was a technique she had learned from the emergency medical training back home. Applied correctly, it would knock someone unconscious without permanent damage. The guard's body went limp. Maya caught him and lowered him gently to the floor. She did not want to make noise that might alert the others. Then she knelt beside his head and examined his teeth. They were yellow and sharp, designed for tearing meat. "This is for laughing at human strength," she whispered. She gripped one of his front teeth and worked it loose. It took more effort than Krixna's tooth because Zekro was unconscious and could not help by struggling. But Maya's fingers were strong from years of handling mining tools. The tooth came free with a soft pop. "Two," she said, putting it in her pocket with the first one. Maya took Zekro's weapon and examined it. The alien technology was different from human guns, but the basic principle was the same. Point and shoot. She made sure the safety was on and tucked it into her belt. Having a weapon would make the next part of her plan easier. She climbed back into the air ducts and made her way to another part of the ship. Plixan would be checking the engine room soon. He was the most careful of the three guards, but that would not save him. Maya reached the engine room first and hid in the shadows near the main power conduits. The room was hot and noisy, full of humming machinery and blinking lights. She could feel the vibrations of the engines through the floor. It reminded her of the mining equipment back home. Plixan arrived exactly on schedule. He walked through, the room checking gauges and making notes on a small device. Maya watched him from her hiding spot, waiting for the right moment. Unlike the others, this one was actually doing his job properly. When Plixan bent down to check a low console, Maya struck. She jumped from the shadows and landed on his back. Her arm went around his throat in a chokehold that would have made her survival instructors proud. Plixan tried to cry out, but Maya's grip cut off his air. The alien was stronger than her, but Maya had leverage and surprise. She held on as he spun around trying to throw her off. His claws scratched at her arms, drawing blood, but she did not let go. Back home, she had wrestled with broken machinery in cave-ins, where one mistake meant death. Plixan's struggles grew weaker as the blood flow to his brain was cut off. Finally, he collapsed to his knees and then fell forward. Maya released her hold and rolled away. The guard was unconscious but breathing. "This is for calling us sneaky," Maya said as she knelt beside him. Plixan's teeth were smaller than the others, but they were still sharp and strong. Maya selected one of the canines and began working it loose. This guard would wake up missing a tooth and wondering how a small human girl had beaten him in combat. "3," she said, adding the tooth to her collection. Maya stood up and looked around the engine room. She could do a lot of damage here if she wanted to, but disabling the ship would not help the human prisoners. They needed to reach a civilized world where they could be rescued. Instead, Maya focused on smaller acts of sabotage. She loosened some connections that would cause minor power fluctuations. She adjusted settings that would make the engines run less efficiently. Nothing that would cripple the ship, but enough to make the crew nervous and distracted. As she worked, Maya thought about the other guards on the ship she had dealt with. The 3 assigned to watch the prisoners, but there were 17 more aliens to worry about. Some of them would be tougher opponents than these lazy guards. But Maya was not worried. She had grown up on a planet where everything was trying to kill her. Poisonous air, crushing gravity, deadly storms, unstable ground. She had survived it all. A few arrogant aliens would not stop her now. She climbed back into the air ducts and made her way through the ship like a ghost. The other prisoners were probably wondering what had happened to her. The aliens were starting to realize that something was wrong. 3 guards were missing, and there were reports of equipment malfunctions throughout the ship. Maya touched the 3 teeth in her pocket. Each one was a small victory, a payment for the pain the aliens had caused. But she was just getting started. Before this journey was over, every alien on this ship would know the price of underestimating a Deathworld girl. The hunt was no longer just beginning. Maya was winning. 3 days passed on the alien ship. Maya pretended to be weak and scared like the other prisoners. She ate the terrible food they gave her and kept her head down when the guards walked by. But inside, she was getting stronger and more angry. With each hour, the ship was dirty and smelled bad. The air was too dry and made her throat hurt. The other human prisoners were sick and weak. They came from comfortable worlds where everything was easy. The hard conditions on the ship were breaking them down quickly. Maya was different. The bad air reminded her of the toxic storms back home. The uncomfortable temperature was nothing compared to the extreme heat and cold of her mining planet. The terrible food was better than the emergency rations she had eaten during cave-ins. This ship was unpleasant, but her homeworld had been much worse. She spent the time learning about her captors. The aliens called themselves Zephyrians. They were slave traders who traveled across the galaxy capturing weak species to sell in their markets. They had been doing this for hundreds of years and thought they knew everything about hunting prey. The 3 guards in the cargo hold were called Crix Na, Zekro, and Plix An. Crix Na was the meanest one. He liked to hurt the prisoners for fun. Zekro was lazy and spent most of his time sleeping. Plix An was nervous and always looked around like he expected trouble. Maya watched them carefully and learned their routines. Crix Na came to check on the prisoners every few hours. He would walk around and kick anyone who looked too comfortable. Sometimes he would grab food away from the humans just to watch them suffer. On the 3rd day, Crix Na decided he wanted more entertainment. He had been drinking something that made him smell worse than usual. His black eyes were mean and hungry as he looked at the human prisoners. He pointed at Maya with one long finger. "You, small one," he said in broken human language. "Come with me." Maya made her eyes wide and scared. She shook her head and tried to crawl away from him. "Please, no," she whispered. "I did nothing wrong." Crix Na laughed. The sound was ugly and cruel. "All humans do wrong by existing," he said. "But you will help me have fun." He grabbed Maya's arm and pulled her to her feet. His grip was strong, but not as strong as the mining equipment she had worked with back home. She let him drag her out of the cargo hold and down a corridor to a small side room. The other guards watched, but did not care. They had seen this before. The room was empty except for some storage boxes. Crix Na threw Maya against the wall and stood in the doorway, blocking her escape. He was much taller than her, and his arms were long and powerful. His sharp teeth showed when he smiled. "Scream if you want," he told her. "No one will help you. Humans are weak and pathetic. You are just meat to be sold." Maya pressed herself against the wall and made frightened noises. "Please don't hurt me," she begged. "I'm just a girl. I'm not strong enough to fight you." Krixna stepped closer. "That is right, little human. You are nothing but—" Maya moved like lightning. Her elbow shot forward and hit Krixna right in the throat. All her strength went into the blow. The alien made a choking sound and stumbled backward. His hands went to his neck as he tried to breathe. Before he could recover, Maya grabbed his head with both hands. Her fingers found one of his long, sharp teeth. Back on her home planet, she had learned to fix broken mining equipment with her bare hands. Her grip was like iron. "This is for calling us weak," Maya said in a quiet voice. She twisted the tooth and pulled. Krixna screamed as the tooth came free with a wet sound. Blood ran down his chin and dripped onto the floor. Maya held up the tooth and looked at it like it was a precious gem. "One," she said. Krixna tried to grab her, but Maya was already moving. She ducked under his arms and rolled across the floor. When she came up, she was behind him. She kicked the back of his knee and he fell forward. His head hit the wall with a loud crack. The alien guard lay still on the floor. Maya checked to make sure he was breathing but unconscious. She did not want to kill him yet. Death would be too easy. She wanted him to remember this pain. Maya looked at her restraints. They were electronic locks designed to hold normal humans. But she had grown up fixing complex mining equipment. Her fingers found the weak spot in the locking mechanism. With a small twist, the restraints opened and fell to the floor. She put the alien tooth in her pocket and smiled. It felt good to be free. The mining station had taught her many things about machines and electronics. These aliens were about to learn that Deathworld humans were full of surprises. Maya checked the corridor outside the room. It was empty. The other guards were probably sleeping or drinking. She moved quietly like she had learned to do in the dangerous caves back home. Every step was careful and silent. She found a maintenance panel on the wall and opened it. The alien technology was different from human equipment, but the basic ideas were the same. Power flowed through circuits to make things work. If you knew where to cut the right wires, you could cause a lot of problems. Maya smiled as she started her work. The aliens thought they had captured helpless prey. They were about to discover what happened when you hurt a Deathworld girl. She had spent her whole life fighting a planet that wanted to kill her. Fighting some arrogant aliens would be much easier. The tooth in her pocket felt warm against her leg. It was the first payment for what they had done to her people. She planned to collect many more before this journey was over. Krixna would wake, up with a gap in his teeth and a story that none of his friends would believe. A small human girl had beaten him in a fair fight. The shame would hurt him more than the missing tooth. Maya finished her work on the electrical panel and closed it. Soon, the lights in this section of the ship would start having problems. The guards would blame it on old equipment and poor maintenance. They would never suspect that their prisoner was fighting back. She made her way back toward the cargo hold, moving through shadows and staying out of sight. The other human prisoners needed to see that someone was fighting for them. They needed to know that hope was not dead. As she slipped back into the cargo hold, Maya touched the tooth in her pocket. The aliens had made a terrible mistake when they decided to hunt humans. They were about to learn why her species had survived. On Deathworlds across the galaxy, the hunt had begun, but Maya was not the prey. Maya Brooks wiped the sweat from her forehead as she finished checking the rock samples. The mining station on Kepler 442b was always hot and dusty. She had been born here 19 years ago and knew no other home. The planet tried to kill people, every day with its heavy gravity, poisonous air, and deadly storms. But Maya was used to it. Her body was strong from growing up in this harsh place. She put the rock samples in her bag and walked toward the main building. Her boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. The gravity here was almost twice as strong as Earth's gravity, but Maya moved easily. Her bones were thick and her muscles were hard. Other humans from the soft worlds could barely walk here, but this was normal for her. The mining station had about 200 people. Most were tough workers who came here to dig for rare metals. They worked hard and lived rough lives. Maya was different because she was born here. The older workers called her a Deathworld native. They said it with respect because they knew how hard it was to survive on this planet. Maya reached the main building and walked inside. The air was better here, filtered and clean. She could breathe without her mask. She went to her desk and started writing her report about the rock samples. The work was boring but important. The metals they found here were used to build spaceships all across the galaxy. Suddenly, alarms started screaming throughout the building. Red lights flashed on the walls. Maya looked up from her work. She had never heard these alarms before. The other workers stopped what they were doing and looked around with worried faces. "All workers report to safe rooms immediately," came a voice over the speakers. "This is not a drill. Hostile ships approaching." Maya felt her heart beat faster. She had heard stories about space pirates who attacked mining stations. They came to steal valuable metals and sometimes took people to sell as slaves. She grabbed her emergency pack and ran toward the safe room with the other workers. Before she could reach the safe room, explosions shook the building. The lights went out for a moment, then came back on dimmer than before. Maya heard the sound of metal tearing and people screaming. She knew the raiders had landed. The safe room door was just ahead when alien soldiers burst through the main entrance. They were tall and thin with gray skin and sharp teeth. Their eyes were black and cold. Maya had never seen aliens before, but she knew these were not friendly visitors. The aliens carried strange weapons that shot blue light. When the light hit the human workers, they fell down and could not move. Maya watched in horror as her friends and co-workers collapsed one by one. She tried to hide behind a metal container, but it was too late. One of the aliens saw her and pointed his weapon at her. The blue light hit her chest, and she felt her muscles stop working. She fell to the floor, but her mind stayed clear. She could see and hear everything, but her body would not obey her commands. The alien leader walked over to look at the captured humans. He was bigger than the others and had scars on his face. His voice was rough when he spoke in his alien language. Maya could not understand the words, but his tone was cruel and mocking. The aliens started dragging the paralyzed humans toward their ship. Maya felt strong alien hands grab her arms and pull her across the floor. Her head bounced on the metal surface, but she could not cry out. The drug they shot her with kept her muscles frozen. They threw her into the cargo hold of their ship with the other prisoners. The floor was cold and dirty. Maya lay there unable to move, listening to the aliens laugh and talk in their strange language. She could smell fear from the other humans around her. As the drug slowly wore off, Maya began to feel her fingers and toes again. She was careful not to move too much. She wanted the aliens to think she was still paralyzed. Through half-closed eyes, she watched the alien guards. There were 3 of them in the cargo hold. They looked bored and careless. Maya thought about her home planet and how it had made her strong. The heavy gravity had given her powerful muscles. The dangerous environment had taught her to think fast and stay calm in bad situations. The toxic air had made her lungs work better with less oxygen. She was not like the soft humans from the easy worlds. The aliens had made a big mistake. They thought all humans were weak and helpless. They had captured workers from the core worlds before and found them easy to control. But Maya was different. She was a child of the Deathworld, raised by a planet that wanted her dead. The ship started moving, leaving her home behind. Maya felt anger growing in her chest like a hot coal. These aliens had destroyed her station and taken her people. They planned to sell them like animals in some distant market. They thought humans were prey. The alien guards talked and laughed among themselves. One of them looked at Maya and made a comment that made the others laugh harder. She did not understand their words, but she knew they were mocking her small size. They saw a young girl who looked weak and scared. Maya let them think that. She had learned patience from watching the planet's deadly storms. She knew how to wait for the right moment to strike. The aliens might be bigger and have better weapons, but they had never lived on a world that tried to kill them every single day. As the ship flew through space toward an unknown destination, Maya began planning. She studied the guards and the layout of the cargo hold. She tested her restraints carefully when they were not looking. The metal bands around her wrists were strong, but they were made for normal humans, not someone with her strength. The aliens had captured what they thought was easy prey. They were about to learn a hard lesson about Deathworld girls.